This should be tape number 6, and it's the same, 10 minutes later than tape number 5. And we're moving into the Ewan Company, and we have the trophies downstairs, and we decide that we need the room for upstairs. And the staff is really growing. Upstairs we have a complete mail room. There were 2 apartments. We tore down the wall between the 2 apartments. We have mailing machines. We have a division called United Specialty that's selling only through salesmen. We have a catalog, and we put out a daily newspaper, a monthly newspaper, 8 pages about all our salesmen. We put out 16,000 copies. It's a crazy business all of a sudden. Trying to make a living. It's already, we'll say 65, 66, and so we closed the trophy business somewhere in this point. We sell all the trophies out to the Nevele Country Club, which was Slutsky, and we're basically out of the local business. We sell some politics locally, but when I was in radio, we always sold politicians because they came to advertise, and so I did their commercials and so on. So I had a smattering of political, when I was with the Record, I sold political advertising also, and there I had another big fight because the head of the Republican Party was a friend of Cy Lubin, and he got all the people not to buy from the Record because it was out of town. So it was always a fight. And that's what business and life seems to be, a fight, because either someone wants your customers, someone doesn't like the fact that you succeed, someone doesn't like the fact that you take their customers away, or their employees away, or this or that. So here we are. We've taken the apartment upstairs. We've got a mail room there. We have some office people up there. We have the basement, which is a mail room. Martha's downstairs. Martha's family's upstairs. We may have 20 employees now. We go into things, Marty Ballin. So we go to Marty Ballin, and Marty gets me into some kind of business, he shows me another kind of business. They're not porno things, but they're magazines that were legal, and he gets me involved with publishers, not that he forces me, and we have a division called International Book Company, and Marty ends up going bankrupt too, with a later situation, and all evolves, and all these people, the world of business is not a sane world. It really isn't, because it's almost a fight to the death, and it's very strange. And that goes for General Motors is going to fight to the death against Chrysler or Honda, and the grocery store, Publix, is going to fight with Walmart to the death. Walmart wants to kill Publix and Winn-Dixie, and our competitors want to kill us. And it's almost that we want to kill them. You can't survive if you say, okay, you can have my customers, and you can have my employees, and you can have anything you want. Well, they'll take it, unless you defend it to the death. And that's what business is. It is a fight to the death, and that's why 90% of all businesses don't stay in business 10 years. And that's why in my business of mail order, very few people survive 44 years. Some do. Myron's there for 45, 50 years. There's some people there. Amsterdam is still there. But thousands and thousands of people tried Air Specialty mail order. Every jobber wants to be in the mail order business. There's 18,000 jobbers. In 44 years, there were 100,000 jobbers that didn't make it. Everyone said, I'm going in the mail order business. They buy a catalog, they make a catalog, and they go out because I'm fighting to the death to kill them. They're trying to kill me. So that's the business. Now, let me just say this as before we go into the next future. Stay there. It may work, it may not. What we did was we built a series of companies. We built, I don't know if you can see this, the Arco Company, okay? And we built the Newpack Company for wholesalers, Newpack for wholesalers. And we built the main political company, Votes Unlimited. This company's 40 some odd years old maybe. And then we built, this is our law enforcement company for law enforcement products, National Imprint, a Florida company. And this is the youth safety company for the fire departments. This is a 96-page catalog. Our catalogs range between 64, 80 pages, 94 pages. This is a New York fire company called Ross, and this is a 64-page catalog. This is Franklin. That's an 80-page catalog out of Florida. You see, and you got to develop, this is the Ohio Political Service Company. I don't know if you can read that. Florida National Imprint Corporation.
No, that's Price Right.
Price Right, I meant. I'm forgetting. Granddaughter's telling me. You see, so this is now. I just went to now. But over the years, we're developing and learning and our craft. How do you develop a catalog? How do you develop all these products? How do you own all this artwork? How do you do all this? Well, you're developing books. We have, I don't know, 30, 40 book titles. From everything from Christmas to fire to education. This is on Black Heritage. I don't know if you can see it. Mm-hmm. This one is Christmas. We have 6 Christmas titles. They're kids' books. They're coloring books. I will hide. They are activity books, hard to see, but crooked. This is teaching kids that they're special. I am special. It tells them why they're anti-drug, anti-alcohol. So we have this whole series of things, and here is that we do brochures wherever we are.
Yeah.
We have 60 brochures. We have 300-400 products. It all evolves. We try to teach. Everything we do is teaching. We try to teach seniors. We try to teach safety on the street. We try to teach fire safety. I don't know if you can see this.
Mm-hmm, I can.
We have bookmarks that teach. We don't just make bookmarks. Bookmarks that teach. That here, buckle up, be safe. So what we have, and I'm going past a lot of points, we have come to the point over the years, which started 40 years ago, of developing our own products and our own books, our own bookmarks, our own brochures, our own factory, our own equipment, our own mailroom, our own art department, our own creative department. So from this 1960, trying to make a living, $50 a week, $29,000 a year, we developed a business that was a little more than a living, and which allowed us 44 years of complete independence and a wonderful life. And we'll get on to, and we'll go back to where we were in those years. But I just want to tell you, as you listen to this story, I brought you to where we are today. And there's another reason I'm bringing you where we are today, because there's a lot of things happen on the way. And I'm going to go now back to, and we'll get into it, the awards, the street being named after me, Man of the Year, Firematic Man of the Year. A lot of things happened in 44 years that were more than just being in business. And maybe I deserved it, maybe the family deserved it, maybe we didn't. But we ended up, to some respect, as, well, I can't, it's my word, but almost in some areas in the industry, a legend. People back in the specialty business 25, 30 years ago would say that Mr. Ross is a legend. I would go to a trade show 30 years ago, and someone would come over and say, it was a stationery show or something in Atlanta, hello, I've got a business in Virginia, and my son is coming into the business. Would you say a few words to him? And I say, what am I going to tell him? Polish his shoes? Or, so the kid come over and I'd say, buy plastic, I don't know what. But that was, I'm going to get to that. Let's go back to the Yawn Company now and the life in business. I just want to tell you where you're going to go for the next 30 years, if the world permits. We're at the Yawn Company now, and let's say it's 1965. We're in the political business. We're in the mail order business. We got salesmen under United. We're in the book business. We're coming out with our first Votes Unlimited catalog, penny and a half piece of junk. We are basically distributors, and we have no manufacturing facilities. And what's going on? Well, we really, really are doing well, but not that well. It's 1989, 87. Well, I'm sorry, 77.
We were in the 60s back.
No, we weren't. Oh,
We're
I'm sorry.
at 69.
Oh, we're 60. No, all right. She's right. I'm sleepy. We moved to the Yawn Company in about 65.
Yeah.
Okay, I had my dates wrong. And so we're into all these things at the Yawn Company. And I can't give you specific dates, but we're 1 month or next month or last month you're struggling and you have a shortage of cash flow, and the next month you may not. But it isn't running so wonderful. We're basically running short of money. We have a lot of employees to pay, and I'm just trying to think of the dates. I would have to say we're about 67, 68. So you run into a few months bad, and then you run into a few months good. And you pay your bills, but you may be paying in 35, 40, 50, 60 days instead of 30 days, and you're not discounting your bills. We have Dave Traurig with us in the picture. We're at the Yawn Company. We buy another building. We buy an old telephone company building. Downtown, the telephone company automates their switchboard building, and we buy that building thinking we were going to move into it. But we don't. We end up selling it. We sell it at a nice profit. I think we paid 30 and we sold it for 60 or something. And whatever it was, we were fine. We had rented it a few years to the BOCES educational system, so we had like 4 years rent out of it. Nice. And then we ended up selling it. And I couldn't give you the time or the dates. But we were involved in a little real estate. I'm just trying to think. We're involved in the community. We're involved in the industry, and we're learning. We're going to shows. But we go to the stationery show, and we go to the office equipment show. And we actually eventually go into office equipment mail order. We're selling desks by mail. We're selling all kinds of office equipment by mail. I think we called ourselves Office Max. No, we didn't. And you're struggling. We were going to go into sororities and fraternity equipment. And some mailings succeed, some mailings fail. And we're at the Yawn Company, and when I say it's not clear, maybe I'm sounding kind of addled, but there's so much going on that it is almost slightly a blur. We don't move out of the Yawn Company until 1970, late 69, 70. I'm sorry, or 68. And there's just a lot. Morty Pollock goes into a mental institution. He one day disappears with the company car and then turns himself into the state troopers and wants to go to. We find out that he had been in a mental institution before he came to us. And he had a breakdown. So he went, and then we had Alan Zella working for me. Alan Zella, I knew his father, a nice, good-looking young man. He ended up in a mental institution. We had a lot of people going to mental institutions. Alan, I guess, was schizophrenia. He said, I was talking to you from the airport, from the racetrack, and he didn't answer. I said, how are you talking to me? He said, with our fingers, we're FBI, we're, you know. And I said, all right. I called his father. His father said, put him in the hospital. Took him to a doctor. They had him transported to a hospital. So you're not only running a business, you're running a life of employees, hospitals, mental illness. They have financial problems. They have all kind of problems. Martha's son was arrested in Ohio for murder, manslaughter. So you got to send him money to get bailed out. Then you give him a job. He was left liberty with a circus, and he had a fight. He swung at this guy. The guy fell, hit his head, and died. He was arrested for manslaughter. So you put up bail because you like Martha, and you give him a job. The manslaughter charges were dropped. Witnesses said he never even hit him. He just tripped and hit his head as he swung. So what does the kid do? He comes to me and he says, I get 10 cents more an hour channel master, I'm leaving. I bail him out, give him a job, and as soon as he's free, he goes for 10 cents more an hour to somebody else. That's employees. Then there was we'll go into later, when I brought boat people into work from Vietnam and gave them jobs. They were beautiful experiences too. And remind me to tell you about when I hired the children and the young adults from the mental hospital to do pen assembly and stuff. That was another beautiful thing. And then when I hired people from the prison after they got out because they couldn't get out unless they had jobs, that was another beautiful thing. You see, so when you're running a business, you have a heart, you have to be cruel, you have to kill your competition, but you also try in some way to help the community and do things. So we tried to the retarded, and we took care of the people at the fire department, the police departments, and we gave to charities. So all this is going on, and you got to keep in mind, I don't have a mentor, I don't have a teacher. This is all freelance. You try it, it works, it don't work. I did not have an established organization of people that could lead, because I was the leader out of my own stupidity. If I had known, I never would have gone into business, how much I didn't know when I was 32 years old. So everything I did almost was trial and error. Today, someone comes into the company, we teach them the equipment, we teach them about mail order, we teach them about this, but there was no one to teach me. I was in Liberty, New York, and I was alone. Uncle Erwin Brotman was with me. He could teach a cat to chase a ball around a room. That was about it. When in doubt, he built a wall. I had more walls going up. What are you doing, Erwin? Building a wall. Erwin, what are you doing? I'm building a patio on my house. Every time things got bad, what are you doing, Erwin? I'm painting my house. My brother-in-law, what am I going to do? He wasn't my brother-in-law, I would have fired him 400 times. So he was a good friend, a nice guy, he was a good friend. But as a worker, never took a drop of work home. He had an attaché case that was empty, brought it home empty, brought it back empty. And he played squash 2 nights a week, and this, and football on the weekends, and it was a yo-yo. My brother-in-law. So later on he leaves, so I'm really heartbroken. That's another side of life. So you have all these things going on. How do you live through it? How do you don't have money? By now we have a house. We move out of the Willie Avenue apartment. We move Champlin Avenue apartment. We're living in a house on on Willie Avenue. Paid $24,000. By 69, we're already adding a wing and a this and a that. so you got the house bills, you got a company car, and Mitchell's growing up, and they go to nursery school, they go to school, they need clothes. It's and only one thing that was supporting everyone. Eileen was born, I guess, by now. I can't put dates on all these things, but you got rent at the Ewan Company, and you got a house, and you got trips. We would take them place. We couldn't take them to Disney. You know why? It wasn't built yet. You see, we're in an era pre-Disney. That's why I haven't mentioned Disney yet, because we're in a pre-Disney era. Disney's doing well in California. In fact, they bought, I think, $50,000 worth of Disney stock back then, when it was, who knows, down real low. I had a bad back. I had a pinched nerve. I used to go to the hospital into traction. I was in a hospital in New York, and I was twice in the hospital in Liberty. So all this is going on. Now you got to remember, we're still in the 60s, 70s, 80s, 90s, 34 years, 35 years ago. It was going out of my mind then. And I slowly went more out of my mind for 35 more years. So this is not an easy task to, first of all, running a business, but remembering it, because there was so much happening. When you couldn't pay your bills, a supplier would cut you out. DuraPen. I'm in Florida on vacation, and I get a call from Erwin Brotman. DuraPen just called. They're not shipping any more pens. You owe them $35,000, and they got 150 orders, because we're in the mail order business. We got 150 orders, and they're not shipping. So you got to send them $20,000. They fly back. There's all these things are going on, and you hope that you can survive. And that's what I almost think the message of this whole tape is. If you don't fight in every way possible to survive, you're not going to survive in anything in life, because everything is a fight. And that's part of the story. So we're over there at the Ewan Company. We're fighting for survival. And what year are we? Well, when I was at the radio station, I took Grandma to Atlantic City. Back in those days, I may have taken it to Las Vegas. We weren't sitting there killing ourselves every minute. The children went to Florida before Disney. They would come to South Florida. But we're still at the Ewan Company. Now, something happens at the Ewan Company. And I'm trying to now think out in perspective what really happens, because, now I know. We decide to go public and own a public company. We couldn't get money anywhere else. We sold shares in the company. You never heard this before. No one has. That's why this tape, because we ended up buying back the shares over the years, but that's why this tape will stay within the family. Back in the late 60s, we decided, let me finish. Not only did I have Erwin Brotman, I now had David Jaffe. No, not yet. We're still at the Ewan Company. I'm sorry. We're still at the Ewan Company, and we decide in 1969 to buy a building that we're in now, and we call Building Number 1. There used to be a company in town for 50, 60 years called Fuelane. They were the kings of the community, the Giroux, they were the elite. They had a compound with homes. They owned Fuelane. and it was bought out and called the Seventh State Gas or whatever it was, and they moved. And the buildings were empty, 5 old buildings or 6. They came to me and said, would you like to buy all 6 or 5 buildings, $55,000. I don't have $55,000. So we didn't buy it. Mr. Fuller bought building 1. Killian bought the building over there. The oil man bought, then they split it all up. And we're still over at the other place. Mr. Fuller, who bought building 1, calls me and says, I can't pay my mortgage. I owe $15,800 on the building, and I can't pay my mortgage. Pete Fuller, no, maybe I know what his name is. Will you take over my mortgage? So we call the bank and we say he wants us, and they say, fine, take over his mortgage. So we got this building for $15,000 and change in his mortgage, and that started to change the whole world. Because, still an idiot, I didn't know what was going to transpire with the equipment, the factories, and all of that. So here now, I have this building. I didn't go public yet. And I have this building. And I got these offices and a warehouse and a factory and upstairs. I got 16,000 square feet in this one building. And I had to do some repair work because he had taken the floor out of part of it. He was going to run trucks in and had to okay. Nice offices. And I hire a guy by the name of David Jaffe. David Jaffe was a certified public accountant, and we hired him as a controller. What Laurie does here, he was our controller, but he was a certified public accountant. Worked for Arthur Andersen, one of the bigger, top accounting firms in America. Dave became our financial person and our accountant. Irwin became who knows what. And I became who knows this. And here we are in this building, and we decide we're going to go public. And Seymour Zolotar steps in again, because he's the one who finds the lawyer who's going to do it. It's unheard of. Nobody in the ad specialty business has ever gone public as a jobber. How can you take a jobbing company public? But we did. As a matter of fact, Halo, who just went bankrupt and built it to $500 million as a jobber, kept claiming, I never bothered to tell him he's wrong, that he was the first company to ever go public in the industry as a jobber. He went public about 10 years ago. I went public 30 years ago. But I'm not telling anyone anything. So here we are in our building, and we are going public. And we're in the mail order business. I'm trying to think. We are really in the mail order business. We have a mail room with putting out tons of mail. Let's say we're in 1968. And we're mailing 6 million pieces of mail. We have an agency in Chicago working up the mailing pieces. We have, I'm trying to put the dates together. We hire a public relations firm because we're public, and they're spreading the word. And I'm on television talking about my company on financial programs. And your mother's watching. I'm supposed to be signaling her somehow in talking about my company. And of course, back in the '62, Kennedy was assassinated, I mentioned. And there's a lot of things going on. Vietnam is ending and so forth. What happens is, in 1969, in the beginning of the year, March, we go public, and we start a massive mailing campaign to bring the stock up. The stock came out at $3 a share, went to $5 a share. The analysts on Wall Street were coming to visit. There had to be, stockholders meetings, and public relations firm, but I'm running out of money again. I only got $300,000 from the public offering. It's called a Reg A, Regulation A. You didn't have to wait all the time of a regular public offering. You can do it in 2-3 months. I'm running out of money again, and I'm running all over looking for money. I have a Howard Strauss working for me now. Howard worked in the pen business for a few companies in New York, and he came. Back in those days, I was able to attract whoever I wanted. If I said to Dave Trower, who worked at Grossinger's, which is a giant hotel, he came. Howie came out of New York. Uncle Irwin came up from the bowling business. Dave Jaffe, I said, from Arthur Anderson. Everyone thought and felt that there was a great prospect future in joining forces with Mr. Ross. Why Mr. Ross? In my first office, way back in 1961, Sylvia Colton, the girl Marilyn, called me David. She was 19 and 20, I was 32, she called me David. Sylvia said to her, Colton, friend of mother, played mahjong with her, said, never call him David, that's Mr. Ross. And from that day on, everyone called me Mr. Ross. In fact, my employee badge, not mine, but the one they made me on the counter right over there, at Disney is the only Disney badge, official badge, that was ever made Mr. Ross. You see, I'll show it, we'll get to Disney later, but I don't know if you can see this. You see, everyone is Michael Eisner, Barry, John, Joe, but I was Mr. Ross. And from that day on, I was Mr. Ross. So anyway, to this day, I'm Mr. Ross. Okay. So where are we now? I'm getting confused. We're over there in this new building. We are going public, and we're in all these businesses. We're running out of money. We hired this agency in Chicago to do our mailing pieces. We're mailing 6 million pieces of mail, and I need more money because the mailing is costing, well, even in those days it was 30 cents a piece. It was $1 million. Well, 6 million. Well, it was about $1.5 million, so I went to what they call is an SBIC, a Small Business Investment Corporation. But you got to remember, I'm running a business with no money. I have these buildings, I have all these employees, I have an agency, public relations firm. I have Wall Street there, but no money. You run desperate. You go every day to New York to the big loan companies we're talking about, and you can't borrow. In the bank, I already had $135,000 from my bank, which was the most they could loan. It was the bank in Jeffersonville. They weren't allowed to loan anymore. It was a little bank. They were only allowed to loan 10% of their assets. And they were only worth $1.3 million. So I go and I find an SBIC. Oh, let me go back to going public. Seymour gets me this lawyer, Max. His father lived in town. He lived in town. He went to work for New York. And he's going to take us public. And the only problem is, when they do all the work, they find out that I was cited by the Federal Trade Commission for misleading advertising. I was turned in by a competitor, Union Pen. He was caught doing it, saying that we were stuck with these pens, blah, blah. And so there was a citation, and they said, look, we're not going to get involved. This was a mighty big law firm. And they got me another lawyer to take us public. The guy's name was, I can't think of the law firm even, so let me finish. So we're switching lawyers in the middle of the thing. We have a company, you just don't go public. You have to have what they call an underwriter. Wall Street people who are going to sell the stock. You don't sell the stock, they sell the stock, which they get a commission on. And so all these things are going on. I'm running a business. I'm looking for money, I'm going public, I'm in the mail order business, I'm in the premium business, and of course, your mother's not with me because she's only 10 years old, 8 years old. It's really hectic. It's really hectic. And I'm just trying to think and put it together in perspective. We reach a point, we do go public, we get 300,000, I think 30,000 goes to the underwriters and the lawyers, so we get 250, 260,000. The advertising agency in Chicago that was supposed to do the mailing takes our postage check, the first, and uses it against what we owe them and doesn't print anything, doesn't mail anything. We have railroad cars of paper going to Chicago, and we have stuff in Chicago, and we have no one to mail it. Erwin Brotman goes out to Chicago, and whatever was printed, he puts on trailer trucks, I think 2 trailer trucks full, and we bring it back to Liberty to do the mailings ourselves. But we're not geared to mail that much mail. This mail was supposed to be done by machines in Chicago with big mailing houses. And we just don't have it. So we will be forced to mail from our own plant. And we had to hire, I think we had a total of 220 people working, 200 to get the mail out and run the office. We got so much business that our pen suppliers could not produce it. We had to make our own pen factory. But it still wasn't enough business to cover the cost. We actually ended up, because making pens by hand, printing them, and it was chaos. And we're not talking chaos, we are talking chaos. I can show you pictures where in 1 week we built 50 tables for girls to work at with partitions and motors to close the pens, but we had no machinery to put the ratchets, the plungers. We had to do it all by hand. Probably cost us, and at the same time, 3 pen suppliers were making pens, and we were making pens. I think we sold 6 million pens that season. So we'll go to that later, but it was, and again, I'm going back to the craziness, the chaotic craziness. For what? To make a living. You see? And you're fighting, you're going out looking for money, you borrowed from an SBIC $200,000. You got $300,000 from the public. Now the SBIC, they're getting stock. They not only get their money back, but they get shares of stock. That's their interest. If the company goes real big, they get their money. We bought them out. Steve Poland was the head of that thing. He was the lawyer in charge. Molesworth, you don't know who Molesworth was. Every bank vault, he sold his company for $120 million back then. Every bank vault in America was made by him and his family. His brother was murdered in Miami by his wife, the Molesworth family. No, I'm sorry, it wasn't Molesworth. Molesworth was my public relations man, I'm sorry. That was the safe man. But he was involved with this 200,000. And it was a whole world. We'd go to dinner with these guys, lunch. They didn't have money in their pocket to pay the bill. I swear to you, these big financiers from SBIC companies, on the $200,000, they brought 5 companies in. one for 50, one for 20, one for 40, from Ohio, from this. They flew up to Liberty on a Piper Cub. It's Poland, Steve Poland. Molesworth was my public relations man. Steve Poland was like me. How he ever got into a Piper Cub, I don't know. Meanwhile, Mitchell's off to private school in Massachusetts by private Cub playing. Little Piper Cubs with his skis. Anyway, they start to use me now to analyze financial reports. You see, I knew finance. So the Poland people, when they wanted to invest in Sullivan or nearby, they would ask me to go over the financial reports. Let me go back, way back, not way back. Just about this time, I get an offer from the owner of Duropen, Irwin Ross, who sold out to Diversified Metals, which is a metal company somewhere in the Northeast, and they had bought him out, and they were going to buy me out. And I went to New York the day before Thanksgiving, 1969, and they were going to buy me out. Or was it early 70? And we met in the lawyer's office, and I took my lawyer down, and we agreed to be bought out. And they were on the way up to Sullivan County the next day for Thanksgiving to buy out Emerald Green, which was a housing development. And I told them to save their time, save their money, and don't go there. It's a disaster. You may be smart in the metal business, you may be smart in the pen business, you're not going to do it in Sullivan County. It's like no other place. Well, sure enough, they went bankrupt in Sullivan County. They went, they bought it with the guy from the racetrack, not my man, but the president, Leon Siegel, Leon, who died, the lawyer. Anyway. So you see, all this is going on. Diversified Metals, Irwin Ross, the people from the SAFE, the Mosler family, the Irwin Ross. It's not peace and quiet like my house. It is hectic, it's murder, it's going to New York, it's a search for money, partners, going public, and it's a rat race. But I got to save the company. And when you talk about tough times never last, but tough people do. That's the message. And you fight. So we got all this stuff in Chicago, and I got mailroom people and warehouse people and trailer loads coming in and railroad cars of paper. And the man who has the railroad car, the man who sold me the paper, Bob, whatever, Rob something, a liar, he tells me he stole the money from a trust for his Elm paper where he worked. That he stole the money from a trust he was in charge of, and he's going to go to jail if I don't pay him. So I have to pay him to the railroad. So I don't know if he's telling the truth. He's been a liar. And I give him a job. He puts me in the printing business. And he borrows some money to put up a trailer. He never pays the trailer people. And he left his wife, and I got people from the trailer calling me, "Where's Bob?" But he hasn't paid for the trailer. So we go away a weekend, and Bob steals some pots and pans. We were giving everything they bought, they got gifts with, pots, pans, attaché cases. I was advertising in magazines. When you went on the airplane, you had magazines. We were moving in a crazy direction, but we were a public company trying to build up the dollars, the whole thing. So we fired Bob for stealing pots and pans and lying. Where he is today, I don't know. But you can't imagine. You got Howard Strauss here. You're ready to fire him. Oh, Jaffe you threw out. Jaffe you actually threw into the parking lot, because that comes to another point. Because with all these mailings, am I boring you? No. With all these mailings and with all this chaos, we see in the winter of '69, after the season, the mailings did not work. We needed $2 million, we needed $3 million back from the mailings, we only did $2 million. So we really have a problem. We're sitting there and we decide, and it's not easy, that we're going to have to file Chapter 11. It's a very, the ego and the community and this industry, nobody has ever at this level gone Chapter 11 in the especially industry. Who would owe 65, 50,000 there, 60 there. But we had no choice because we just couldn't pay our bills. It was supposed to be totally secret, and there's a reason. It's so secret because if the people you owe money to, oh, by the way, we paid the bank off. We didn't want the bank involved, so we gave them $135,000. We didn't tell our accountants, which was sinful. We had these giant accountants from Wall Street, Harwath, and who knows. They called me up the next day and said, "What's going on there? Someone told me that you..." They said, "How can you do it without us?" Anyway. But Dave Jaffe went down to Joe's and told somebody. And when he came back, someone called me up from downtown. You gotta remember, they sold stock around town. These people loved me. And Dave told, Dave Jaffe told Dave Friedland. Dave Friedland called me. When Dave Jaffe came back, everything from his desk was in the parking lot. And I took him, big man, and I threw him out. But your mother will tell you, I threw out a lot of people, big ones. They were all afraid. And I was the rough boss. No one ever intimidated me. If they were 6 foot and they were murderers. And back in that time, we hadn't anything there but a pen factory. That's all we had. And we did that so we could get the pens out because the suppliers just couldn't ship that many pens. So we're at a stage and we're up to, I'll tell you where. We're up to February 1970. It's the winter of January or late December that we decide. And we go to New York to find the biggest bankruptcy lawyer in the world. Bernie Levine, who lived on our street, Willie Avenue, and my lawyer, his cousin, Levin, it really was probably Levine, but it was Levin, and his partner's name was Weintraub. Levin and Weintraub were the giants of the bankruptcy business, and I mean the giants. And we got them. It was late at night. We finished on a snowy night. Irwin, Howie, Strauss, me, and Bernie drove down to New York. And we went over this with Harris Levin. He was an old man. He must have been at that point 70. They got out of college in the 30s when the Depression, and they had no, Weintraub and him, and they had no idea what they were going to do to make a living. They said, well, everyone's going to go bankrupt, so let's open up a bankruptcy law firm. So from 1933, in fact, they wrote the textbooks on bankruptcy. From 1933 to 70, which was 47 years, they were in that business solely. As a matter of fact, they were cheap. Now, I don't know about Weintraub, but Levin was cheap. Levin wrote a book on bankruptcy that I wanted to read so I can understand how the legal part, and he charged me for it. Wait a minute. Before he would take the case, he said, I want $35,000. Well, if you're bankrupt, you're not going to pay me. So he wanted, I had the money, $35,000. I was very fortunate. I had $600,000 at the time. It wasn't enough to pay the bills. no, I don't know if I had six, I had 300,000 cash, whatever it was, and then we had a lot of orders in the drawers on the ship. We were able to financially say, okay, if we go through this, we will come out okay. So we come down at, let's say, 11 o'clock at night. It's snowing on Wall Street, and we're staying the night at the Hilton. Bernie has a room with Howard, and I guess maybe I'm by myself. Maybe Howard wasn't there. Maybe it was just Irwin, me, three of us. Bernie and Howard, and I always stay by myself. So Levin says, can I stay with you? I just gave him $35,000. He lives out on Long Island, it's snowing, he doesn't want to go home. His son lives on 14th Street, he can't find his son, can he stay in my room? I said, no. He said, all right, I'll go home. Wait a minute. So the cab comes, and he says, can you drop me off on, I think he found this one, can you drop me off on 14th Street? I said, so there must have been four of us. I said, no, the cab only holds four, we can't take you. I said, you take the cab to 14th Street, and we'll wait for another cab. He said, no, I'll take the subway. Let me finish. And he walked 3 blocks to the subway in the snow to 14th Street with my check for $35,000, the largest bankruptcy firm in America. And the guy who handled it for him, Mike Crames, is now, Michael handled us. Mike was the son-in-law of his partner. Mike Crames, and this is no ifs, ands, or buts, is the largest, biggest bankruptcy lawyer in the world. He handles Penn Central Railroad or the asbestos company, John Mansville, or, I mean, he is the top. So we were in good company, and I won't go through all the ramifications, but we will. But the point is, here we were. We went public in March and bankrupt 8 months later, which is quite a feat. But you have to look at the mental anguish of what you're going through in those years. It's, no matter what your mother or you or this or that is, nothing compares to those days. When you go to the first bankruptcy meeting, which is in a hotel, you pay for the room and you pay, they yell at you. The people you owe money to, they yell at you and they curse you. And someone went to the house and threatened your mother, 10 years old, your father owes us money. And I was in a hotel in New York waiting for the next day's meeting, and people were running through the hotel screaming to what room I'm in so they can hope to get money. And one guy sent up an imposter saying he was a fundraiser. But you see, it's like the mad, mad world. There's a movie where they race around the world to win a prize. Money, 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 money. When money's involved, people go crazy. They literally go crazy. And they said, so they have to decide how much pay I get. And they said $300 a week, and $500 a week. The creditors committee, they make committees, and one guy gets up, let them sweep the floors for $50 a week or something. They're screaming. You see, but you see, I had to realize, is there something to save? Now we're into January, February, about March of 1970. Disney's still not open. They don't open until October 71. I'm in business now, how long? 10 years only. Everything I just told you was 10 years. 10 years, 1960 to 1970. From a bedroom to where we were with the SBIC, the Molesworths, the SBIC companies, the biggest lawyers, the whole world, the industry, Amsterdam Pen, Union Pen, the genius of the specialty industry. 10 years. From the $800 that I had when I went into it, which I lost on my first venture with the sign company, to a multi-million-dollar, I filed Chapter 11 thinking I owed $1 million I couldn't pay. It only was about $800,000. But back then, that was nice money. But I had orders in the drawer and cash and accounts receivable for $600,000. So we're going to wind it up.
Trisha, I gotta say something.
All right, here we are. Let's see, the 6th day, I guess. Today got to be the 24th of March, 2004. We're continuing. I would have to assume I'm 1 day older. That's good thinking. We've taken this now from 2 years old, 1930, to 1970. So we have 40 years in. Now I just want to recap for a minute the, pardon me, the 10 years of business. And if you'll notice, I'm going to leave out not only from the 40 years, but the next 30 years, 35 years, a lot of the personal and family situations. Because in every family there's an illness, there's a problem, there's a this, there's a that. And I don't even cover a lot of my brother or my sister, Mitchell, Alice and Eileen. There's a lot of things going on family-wise. We had a bar mitzvah for Mitchell in 1969. Now, you got to look at 1969, which is leading us right to the telephone. Where was I? I'm on? Well, let's go back because I don't know where I was. Okay, the phone rang and I got up and Trisha's smiling. And by the way, it's morning. It's a little darker in here today than usual. The sun is not shining. I don't know if it'll show up on the, by the way, we're in our home at 1811 Colonial Drive, Eagle Trace, Coral Springs, Florida. And we're not going to show you the home. We're not going to show you the, we're going to go in the garage later because there's a lot of interesting things. But basically, we're not here to show you all our styles of living, or the limousine, which people will think you're rich, Tricia. Tricia never liked the limousine. We'll go into that later, but when Tricia was in school, she made me pick her up with the limousine 2 blocks away, so the kids didn't think she was rich. So we won't do this on the video. As far as Stephen was concerned, Stephen would have me take the limo into the classroom. In other words, it looked kind of stupid with the limo going into the classroom, but that was it. Anyway, let me go back to 1969. I think that was a very hectic, traumatic year. We had the, I believe, the Woodstock Festival in Sullivan County, Bethel. That was going on. I didn't even know what was going on because I was busy looking for money and getting ready to go public, and Chicago and 220 employees, and we were busing employees in. Actually, we rented buses to bring people in. And even though that's just a clock. And so 1969 was a very traumatic year and a turning point year. It was the 9th year that we're in business, and it was probably the most educational part of my business career. We had bought a building. We were renovating a building. There were things going on in the community. And by the way, Liberty, New York, when we got there, was a bustling, hustling community. The movie, people were standing online. Restaurants, people stood in the summer online. Every store was rented. You couldn't even rent a store on Main Street. Rozovsky's men's and ladies stores, children's upscale stores, Newman's dress shop, Marsha's dress shop. It was the place to be. And that's why I went there to go into radio. This wasn't going into some dead area. I was going into the heart of the Borscht Belt. So anyway, those were the years before. Okay. So I'm not going to touch on a lot of the personal situations that were going on. My mother was still alive, my sister was well, my brother-in-law was well, Bertha was still alive, Sidney was still alive, Marvin was still alive. And I know this thing is supposed to cover a lot. And I'll just go into it briefly at this point, because I omitted it. My mother had 9 grandchildren. Robert had 2, Norman and Susan. And Marvin had 3, Debbie, Marilyn, and Jeff. And Helen had Mark and Sherry, and she had lost one baby when I was in the Army, Lois Beth. And we had 3 children. So my mother had 9 grandchildren. And so it was a family situation. I was up in Liberty 2 hours, 3 hours away, but she'd come a few times a year and stay over. And Grandma, her mother was alive, and she had a sister in town because Uncle Irwin, which we called him, Irwin Brotman, he came to work for us. So she was in town, and she had 3 girls, Lisa, Jennifer, and Michelle. And so we still see Clara. We took her out to dinner the other night. And we still see Michelle and Jennifer and Lisa several times a year, or once every year. So the family is all there, and but we're so busy with the business and a million other things that we're, and as I say, there's all kinds of potential problems, there's illnesses, there's things going on, and in middle of all this, we expanded the house in Liberty. In 1969, we only had 2/3 the house we have now. We added the master bedroom, we redid the foyer, we did the dining room over, we added on the living room. We completely reconfigured the whole house on the right side, and we did away with the carport and so forth. So in 1969, we were running a business, getting ready for a big bar mitzvah, probably the biggest and nicest bar mitzvah Liberty ever saw. And then we were had the Woodstock thing, and we were out of money, getting ready to go public. All this in 1969, the 9th year of business. So if I don't cover each illness or family problem or family good thing for all the years of a business, it's because it was there, it was overshadowing, undershadowing, it was part of the fiber of our life. But I don't think in this particular venue we want to go into all the ramifications of our life in that aspect. So we're going to continue now with the next years, which is a new segment, and we're going to phase out. All right, we're into the year 1971. Now, that was a year that I had no idea what was happening in Florida, in Orlando, was going to really impact the rest of my life, along with my business and family. What had happened in 1971, they opened Disney World. And it sounds strange, what has Disney World got to do with me? And we're going to go through probably the rest of our lives from 1971 to the present time, because there is and has been a very big part of our life, and we're going to hit it, fellas. Well, I guess there's nobody there. Anyway, we're going to, and keep one thing in mind, the things that you're seeing out in this living room are not out in this living room normally. We took them out this morning and yesterday to portray vividly and pictorially a part of our life as we moved into Florida and the phase of the life in the future from 1971 till 33 years to go. So we're going to walk over here, and we can walk, and I see if I look at the chair, I turn into a teddy bear.
Yep. Two teddy bears.
What we have here is, and we're going to be talking about it, but you can always go back and refresh it. What happened over the years is, for some reason, we were getting awards. For example, and this isn't to say how wonderful I am. This is Eagle Trace, Mr. David Ross, Community Man of the Year. I don't know why I deserved Man of the Year, but I got Man of the Year. At the hospital, Memorial Hospital, they have the David J. Ross Cancer Resource Center in Hollywood here. This is giving me an award for something I did for the police department, setting up a children's room. I don't know what they call it. Here it is over here. They call it the, in recognition of your generous contribution, Children's Room with a View. It's at the police station. And so all these things start, honorary member of 87 Fraternal Order of Police. The Dan Marino, he was a big football player. He still is, not a football player, but a big Dan Marino Foundation. Ross Industries, touchdowns for tots. Every time he threw a completed touchdown, we gave money, so forth and so on. And we won't go into the fact that we didn't play golf with him on 2 occasions. I was named, I can leave this down there, Firematic Man of the Year, whatever that means. I guess I do a lot of work in fire safety and so on. Firematic Man of the Year. Then we come over here to the chair. This one I just got a few months ago. This is, that's me in the picture. This is the Fraternal Order of Police. They give me an award for being handsome, I guess. I don't know. And it's a nice picture of me there. And I don't know what the plaque says, but it's nice. And next to it is an award appreciation for the FFP. Here's an award from a fire department in New York. Right over there, fire department in New York. We come back out and get the light off it, but there's light hitting from the ceiling.
It's okay.
But it's okay.
Because we just wanted to read it. There we go.
Okay.
Okay.
Now, and also we have this thing called Ross Avenue. Back in Liberty, they named a street after me. And they had a dedication. And by the way, a lot of these things have other videos. We have a video of the dedication of Ross Avenue, which eventually I asked them to take and change it because there was some people in Liberty who really got annoyed that there was a Ross Avenue. So basically, things were going on. And now, all of this is not 1970, but we're going to go through this era. At the same time, I said they opened Disney. Well, what did that mean? They opened Disney. Well, what did Disney have to do? Well, we'll go into it. There's the family, Tricia, Stephen, and me, and Grandma, and Allison, getting ready to be Grand Marshal of the parade. Here we are in the first float, way down there on the bottom of the float is the Grand Marshal of the parade. In those days, it was wonderful. I said, I want to be Grand Marshal. I was Grand Marshal. This is me and my favorite little old friend. Mm-hmm. Well, what's a Mary Poppins? That's me and Grandma up there. And that's my whole bunch of friends down there. They're not the greatest light, but anyway, there we go. And here's some pictures with Grandma. And these are public pictures. And I would go through another aspect. Over here, some friends.
Okay. Oh.
You see, in the years at Disney, which we're going to discuss, we had people at Disney where we didn't do any real socializing in South Florida or New York. Most of our life was spent either entertaining or parties or socializing in Orlando. And we'll go into this later. Of course, there's Armando and George Kay and Mark and me and Ed down on the right, and Jerry and Barry, and it's all part and parcel of an era. And part of that era, which we will go through later, is not only my connection with the business, the world. This happens to be a sheriff's magazine. We, for years, have had the back cover of the National Sheriff's Magazine. We are probably one of their major supporters. This is the Christmas edition. Every year we put a different Christmas cover, but we have the back cover every year and so forth. Now, but we're going to be going into other things as well. And this is not an ego thing. We're trying to put in perspective our life in this time. And we will at another point. There's all kinds of, there's letters here from President Clinton and from senators and vice presidents. And there's a reason, because I'm good looking. Now, and there's letters from Disney executives. And the reason they're out here, because I took them out, is because we're going to go to a point as my relationship, because it was a very big part of our life, and the children's life, and the grandchildren's life, where I was the mentor, the teacher, and so forth at Disney. Okay, now, we're going to turn my back on the camera, and we're going to phase down, and we're going to talk about it just briefly. Okay, we're now in the garage. Now, the garage used to be pristine. The floors were tiled, and they still are tiled. And there's mirrors and cabinets, but we've got a little messy now in the garage. And you'll see here, as we go through the garage, there's a kind of a huge wall, if Tricia steps back. And we have, in our home, in the office, in Chicago, in New York, we have hundreds and hundreds and hundreds of memorabilia, thousands, that either were given to me or had meaning. Now, I'll give you an idea. When I had cancer, this came from Disney. It's Get Well Soon, Mr. Ross, and it was signed by all the characters. Well, it really wasn't. There's one guy at Disney who literally can imitate every signature. Every character in Disney has their own signature. So if you're playing the role of Mickey, you must sign an autograph this way. It's always the same. So this one guy can do it all. This one came from the people at Epcot. Get well, Mr. Ross, thinking of you, Mr. Ross. And this was the executives at Epcot. I'm going to get to a point. When I was sick and couldn't go to the Epcot anniversary of 15 years, they sent me this and a package of goodies. Sorry I couldn't attend. Over the years, we used to attend all of the openings and so forth and so on. Now, by the way, I was speaking about the lighter that got me in business in 1960 that had the name of the manufacturer. This is the actual lighter that is now 44 years old. And above it, I told you about the dollar I would never spend, given to me by Joe because there was a hole in it. That's the dollar above it. This is the Thresher. It was the first atomic submarine sunk in the Pacific by accident. And the crew went down, and I looked just at the time when the crew went down and all died. My people in Japan who were selling me lighters sent me a sample, unknowingly, of the crew's lighter at the Thresher. So, these are things that they sent me, 15th anniversary, Epcot. That's a separate video. It's the Ross family Disney holiday get-together celebrating the 9th birthday of Tricia J. Ross. Now, that is a separate video. I don't have to go into all the detail. That's Stephen's bar mitzvah. This is my old girlfriend before I met Grandma, Minnie. But these, the garage is pretty messed up. Now, a lot of these things have been given to me. That's the first cruise line. When the first boat went out, they sent me that. This is, I don't know, Disney World Honorary Citizen. Below is the Walt Disney Grand Floridian Award, David J. Ross. These, watch your step here, is a little messy. This here, down here, when we went for the opening of the Wilderness Lodge, which was another whole thing in itself. Over here, there's a lot of stuff. The day we were in the parade, Grand Marshal, they give you a Grand Marshal Award. This was from the employees, the opening of the Yacht and Beach Club, 1994. 1994, 10 years ago. This is very interesting, but it may not be. Those are sugar. They're sealed so ants can't get at them. They're sugar plates. Very rarely used at Disney. Really only used for VIPs. But they're hand-painted, and they put your dessert on it if you're supposedly a man of distinction. Anyway, we'll go through this quickly. And I won't go through every cabinet because there's years. When Disney had parties, there were special invitations, and there were special gifts. And a lot of these things, this is the opening of the Animal Kingdom. Special passes and awards, not awards, parking and Coca-Cola, and the different companies would give you things. This is the 25th anniversary party and opening. And there's your employee pins down there. Tricia and Stephen and Michael and Eileen and Allison, they're all over the house. But these are things, we can't go through everything, only because it would take 77 years. These are ways of getting to the private parties, which is another whole story we won't go to. And this is, we're cleaning this out. This is the old Muster Mouse, one of our own companies, which we're going to be cleaning out, and so forth, and so on, and we go along. Okay, let's go back into the house. The reason we're doing this together, we don't want to jump up. And whatever you see here, you can multiply it by 10, what's in the office, or 30 in other parts, and so on.
Do you want to fade out?
Wait a minute. Yeah.
Yes or no? Yes?
Okay. We went through this phase of showing you not the house, but certain aspects of awards and things. Some of it even came from the office. They were all not here. And the reason we did that was we didn't want to interrupt the entire, you can come right in and sit down in the audience, ma'am. You can sit in the audience. There happens to be an audience here of what, 80, 90 people? And not really. Grandma, sit down. Anyway, this letter personifies nothing and everything. I got this letter this week. It's dated 19th of March 2004. Now inside, in a big box, Tricia knows this because she went through it once, are hundreds and hundreds and hundreds of letters from people thanking me. I don't know what they're thanking me for, but they're thanking me. People love to send me letters of thank you. And strangers, in many cases. I'm in a restaurant and some guy finds out my address, I don't know how, from the waiter or from the web, and he sends you a letter of thank you. It was wonderful meeting you. This was a little, I guess she was a little retarded. She was doing a survey at the bowling alley, and we went in to watch some people bowl the other night, Grandma and I. And she got paid by the survey. In other words, a questionnaire. And we did it because we felt she needed the money. And I gave her a ballpoint pen, which I give out pens with my name on it. And I guess she got my name and address off the survey. And she wrote the following letter to Mr. and Mrs. Ross. Hi, a woman about 28. She looked a little slow. Hi, thank you both very much for the beautiful pen. It was both very sweet of you, for both of you, to do that for me. I will always treasure it. Please enjoy. Please, she writes in a strange line, please enjoy in whatever life may bring your way. Peace, good health, and love. Thank you again very much. Nice and kind people still makes the world go around, like you both. You both make the world a big difference of who you both are. Best wishes, and she has a smile, and it's Dawn R. Jimenez. Okay. Now, the thing is this, and the reason I'm bringing this up is, part of my life has been to make one person happier every day. So every day as I go out in the world, Grandma and I, one person has to be happy. If it's two, fine. But I don't care if we give them a pen or a gift or a knife or a better tip or a better smile. Every day that we go out in that world, somebody is happier that we're on this earth. And Tricia will know that's the truth. And because of that, thousands and thousands of people are happier for that one moment. And I guess this is what happened at Disney as we evolved into that life, and maybe why I would be getting awards, or why I have thousands of letters of people who had no reason to write a letter other than to say thanks, I guess, for making that 1 minute happier, 1 day happier. And if you just give me, there's something here, right there, Tricia. I think it was a thing from, a man went to Disney with his fat one there. Yes. And this is very egotistical, but it's not. It's part of what I have to leave behind as to who this family is and what we are. When I went for my cancer surgery, which comes up later, the radiation, everybody at the hospital who worked with me on the radiation got a trip to Disney. And this is a family by the name of the husband's family. I guess of course, they're from Haiti because it's St. Clair, that's his name, and Andre is Spanish, French. And this is them, which Tricia, oh yeah, you have a camera sitting right there. Okay, don't worry about it. I don't know if it's visible.
Yeah, it is.
And this is what they wrote. But I have to say this because it's part of making somebody happier. Dear Mr. Ross, a million thank yous can never be enough to show our appreciation and gratitude for what you have done for our family. In our hearts, we're all children, but as we go through life's difficulties, we tend to forget the special magic that childlikeness has. You have truly showed us how to remember the magic of Walt Disney World. May God richly bless you and your family, and most of all, heal you from your illness. Thank you once again for helping us to remember the magic, the husband family, St. Clair, Raquel, Andre, Alex, and Ashley, and they went to Disney August 27th to 30th, 1997. Now, we have sent many people to Disney. I wouldn't say 10, I wouldn't say 1,000, but hundreds of either at parties or events or cancer victims or police officers from the FOP or employees, and it was all designed to give them a magical moment. It was a magical moment. So as we go through, and the reason I'm doing this, I'm not ready to recall the years in business, as we go through 1971, when they opened Disney World, and I will only say we have all the records and all the magazines from the opening, yet I wasn't involved. I was still in Liberty, didn't move to Florida yet. And we have vast amount of collector's items in all our homes that either were gifts from people at Disney. If somebody would go on the cruise, a Disney executive, they would send me a memorabilia of the cruise. If an executive went out to California, he would send me something from California. Barry, in many cases, if he went with Michael Eisner to Euro Disney, he would send me something from the 5th anniversary, which I'm pointing back there because there's a lot of stuff in the cabinets. The executive chef, Jerry, he gave me a very rare executive chef patch. It was only limited to 12. People, Wolfgang Puck's executives, all the people at Disney spent years sort of saying thank you. And the reason I'm bringing it up, as I say, it was an important aspect of our life at Disney. And it was a life that nobody else had. Now, this is not the letters there. These are special letters, I guess. And the reason I'm going to possibly go through some of these is that it has some meaning into my relationship plus the years at Disney. And I'm going to see if I can hold this and so forth. Because I don't know what's in each one. Some of these are from President Clinton, some of them from Mr. Gore. And let me see what this says. Nothing. This is just we can put this into a, no. We'll do it later. There are meaningful, I can't find anything. Dick Nunes, he was the president, I'm looking, of Disney World. I'll find it and bring it up later because I don't want to spend the week going to Senator Lieberman. He ran for president, and they don't know me. We go in the room and see all kinds of things. Invitation to Jimmy Carter's inauguration. We worked, of course, through the business with Mr. Carter, or President Carter. Here's the Lieberman family, and this is way before he was running for president, just so you can see. Every year, Joe Lieberman, senator from, Connecticut, would send me his whole family. And by the way, that was the trend as well. Gore would keep sending the family. As his children got married, there was more people in the pictures. They had grandchildren. There were still more people in the picture. And whereby the Clintons, they always sent pictures of just the White House and so forth. So I can't find what I'm looking for, but basically, here's something from the Gores, but it doesn't mean they know me. It means that for some reason, And it wasn't because I donated to Gore. I never donated to Gore. I guess they have a list of handsome men. This was the Gore family when they were still younger. Our family wishes you, it's a Merry Christmas. I guess it goes to anyone that they want to send it to. Doesn't mean they know you. But I'm getting to some kind of point. I don't know what I'm getting. Oh, here's the White House. I'll just give you an idea, because I want to kill some time. I really don't want to. The Clintons always sent paintings of the different parts of the White House. I don't know if that's in the picture.
Yeah, you can see it.
You see? And theirs, of course, is printed. It's not signed. Had the presidential seal, and I guess you see the presidential seal. I don't know if it's in there.
Yeah, it's on the top.
Okay. So basically, it was a wonderful life of recognition. Even though these people weren't, there's letters inside when I did the McGovern campaign. But every year, these are President, Vice President, Mrs. Al Gore. It's something for the future. Okay, now here is a Vice President of Disney, which writes, I don't know what he writes here. He writes something, it's a greeting card. Okay, all right, this is from a Vice President of Disney. I will not mention his name. And it says, thank you for all of the molding and mentoring over the years. Just a reminder that it all started with cheese bread. Okay. What I'm saying is, why I was looking for this, as we go through my life and the family's life at Disney, a lot of it had to do with mentoring, teaching, befriending, and it wasn't just Disney executives. It was anybody who needed that. This is from, I don't even know what it says. This is from let me read it first. Yes. You see, there's a Disney executive who was going for a cancer operation, a woman. Dear Mr. and Mrs. Ross, I regret that we didn't see you last night, but trust that you enjoyed the celebrations. This was probably during the 25th. What was happening was, in order for a lot of the executives to get into places, they sort of hung out with us. So she hung out the night before with us, and the next night we went to a private, and they weren't allowed in. There was a lot of private things that directors or vice presidents really weren't allowed to go into. They were very limited. And I guess this was the next night. And she says, thank you for the lucky pin. Knowing its sentimental value to you makes it also very special to me. May you continue to inspire us as well. This was, she was going for a cancer operation. I had a pin that I wore all during my cancer operation. It was given to me as a courtesy. It in essence was the Contemporary Hotel at Disney's executive committee. And they all wore the pin. There was only about 15 pins. And she was at that hotel and then moved on to run another one. I'll tell you who it was, Georgina. And she was the head of the Grand Floridian. So I gave her my pin. And of course I was brokenhearted because she took it. But eventually they found another one and they did give it to me as a, so I still have it, and I looked at it the other day. You see, what we're saying in essence is that the relationship of Disney was mutual. I was never there as a guest to participate in rides, which we'll go through. I was there to either learn about a mighty operation and the things that, here's one, dear Mr. and Mrs. Ross, thank you for your beautiful flowers. This person had some surgery. She wore the lucky pin. You see, as you go through life, you can't only think of yourself. The pin was important to me, but if you'll notice, it was really mighty important to her. And that's basically what you have to do to go through life. You don't cut your left arm off to make people happy, but you do go a little out of your way to make each person's day a little nicer. And if it costs you a little more, it costs you a little more. It sort of comes back in your own happiness. And when I say I had a very wonderful life, I had a wonderful life, I have a wonderful life. I didn't say wife, I said life. She stuck her tongue out at me. Anyway, but it passed on to thousands of people who, here's one from California. This guy was the senior vice president of Disneyland operations. And he just wanted to remember something. I don't know even what he writes here. Okay, a quick note to say thanks so much for the final book of the Celebrate the Century. It was very considerate of you. I have a Disneyland resort. I have, he runs a Disneyland resort in California, senior vice president now. Of course, I knew it. And please give my best, no, what is it? Please give my best to your, and thank you. Okay, what I'm saying is when somebody at Disney got transferred from Orlando to California, they didn't go to California and say, well, Mr. Ross is goodbye. They all sort of held on and was willing to acknowledge that, and I know I'm getting boring here, but I'm looking for, these are all from congressmen, Florida Jubilee. I don't know what this is. Is it from, it was like, I'll give you an idea, and we haven't got to this yet, but I'm not really ready to talk about the business. It was like the 25th anniversary, and a lady came over to me and said, who are you? It was a private area, just there were two families there, me, Mrs. Ross, and her family. And she said, who are you that everyone fawns all over you? Very pretty woman. And I said, and anyway, it turned out she was our governor's wife, Bob Graham's wife, who was now our senator. And I put it together because I had met Bob Graham downstairs, and we spoke for a little while. But the treatment I was getting at Disney was so awesome that we were in this room, private area. It wasn't, you know, on the 14th floor, but she couldn't understand. Well, here was a man who was getting this awesome treatment, and she didn't know who he was. So it really gave her something to pause and say, okay, who are you? And that's basically what this is. And I'll open this forever, and I'll never find the letters that I'm looking for. Let's see. All right, some other day. So we're going to be going on, and I can't go into every aspect. As I said before, Disney opened in '71. We still, well, 2 days ago I got a call from a Disney executive. I got a call 3 days ago. So though I don't participate nearly as much as I did, the relationship to some degree goes on. I do have to say this, that in many cases, the people that I did mentor are no longer there. And they either have retired, got fired, and in some cases, quit. And the relationship with Disney, of course, brought it into other aspects. Relationship with, Wolfgang Puck's people, and Wolfgang Puck, who people maybe 50 years from now won't even know who they are. Here's a letter, Dear Mr. and Mrs. Ross, it's a card. And this is written, I don't know if it's a proverb or what, When fear knocked on my door, faith gave me the strength to answer, hope gave me the will to open, and you gave me the courage to welcome whatever lay ahead. June 2000. Thank you for all your caring thoughts and warm gestures of concern. Your support will comfort me through the journey of healing. I will cherish each step as a triumph and a reminder of all you have done for me. Disney executive. Now you see, strangely enough, there's a huge container inside of hundreds and hundreds and maybe 1,000 letters to this extent. So you have to understand as we go through life. Okay, here's one from the senior vice president of Disney. Where do I begin? That's a nice song. Where do I begin? Love story. Where do I begin to say thank you? I am so privileged to know such wonderful people. I look forward to seeing you during the holidays. Now it's not the letters, and it's not the ego. It's the knowing that I made and helped make, one, these people's career. I helped as much as I could. And also that most people that met me and went through life with me have been better off. They haven't been worse. Maybe my competitors have been worse, or people I didn't like have been worse. But here's one. We will think of you often and look forward to seeing you. So these letters are not saved as an ego thing. It's to tell a family 20 years from now, 50 years from now, that this, and I can't find the others, which I will someday, what life was as Tricia grew up. Tricia said to me, and we're going to go into the life of the business, I just get on this tangent. Tricia said to me, when she was about 5 years old, Grandpa, you own Disney. And I said, no, Michael Eisner was just up there at the California Grill, and he was just getting off the elevator. I said, no, that's the man who owns Disney. He didn't own Disney either. But the treatment that Tricia and Stephen got was so royal that they couldn't think of anything other than Grandpa owned Disney, because when we walked on water. Everywhere we went, they would give us an escort. Or at night, they would part the crowds like they parted the Red Sea and took us to our destination. And there were certain occasions when men on walkie-talkies would part the crowd and say, Mr. Ross is getting in the limo, he's coming to the Canadian building, and at the Canadian building they would meet us. And Tricia would go through rides. And if we said we want Tricia to be on at the Jolly Holiday, the star, 1 out of 3,000 people, Tricia was the star. And if we said we want Stephen at the Hoop-de-Doo to be the star, and he became the star. And the Grand Marshal of the parade, or they would go, and there was a period they would go on rides through the back doors without waiting on a line. And they never would have to wait on a line at the restaurants. And when they came to a hotel, they parted the doors, they never went to a check-in counter. They were taken right to their rooms, and their rooms were filled with toys and things. And one Christmas, when we came from the Jolly Holiday, they had all this Christmas trees with everything on it for the kids. It was a period of a world that everyone would dream of having. And yet Tricia, Stephen, Allison, the children, me, Mrs. Ross, and when we brought guests, they had it also. It was an era that became so much part of our life that it's going to be difficult to talk about the next 35 years without that as a background. Because all the time we're doing this, and this in the business, this world of Disney is there. It was there for us to go and rest. It was there for us to go to be entertained. It was there for us to go to be treated royally. And in return, that's what I was looking for, letters from executives which are addressed to my mentor, my teacher, my this, my sage, my that. And they, in return, looked to me to teach. And because I wasn't there as a guest, I was there as either a friend of Disney or as a mentor or what. Okay, now we're going to go back to, I'm going to have a glass of water, you're going to phase me out, and then I'm going to go back to the business.
You listening, Tricia?
Yeah, draw a picture.
What you think the cancer should look like. And I said, what you can do is kill it. Kill it, stab it, get rid of it, and so forth. And she did. And guess what? She survived this cancer.
That's good.
And yeah,
Who's this?
that little girl who was going through cancer
Oh,
at the same
okay.
time.
All right, let me finish the 6 minutes.
All right. Shh. Everybody quiet?
Huh? Not a word.
Okay, the director, Tricia, has signaled me that we have 6 minutes left. And I'm going to use the 6 minutes to wind up the Disney aspect till we get it back into the business. But I want to just show, this was Grandma's, I don't know what's visible, Grandma's office down on Sample Road. And this is the part of the cabinets at Grandma's office on Sample Road. Is it clear?
Wait, hold on. There you go.
And you'll see this was the rest of Grandma's office on Sample Road. And there's a reason we're going to show you this. I don't know what else is here. Here was, oh, I know this guy. You know who this guy is?
Yeah.
Is he in the picture?
Yeah, perfect.
Yeah. And let me see.
You might need to tell them who it is.
Oh, it was Walt Disney. Now, let me see what we got here. Oh, your mommy's in the next picture, Walt Disney. This is Grandma's office, I guess. I didn't look at it.
What is she
No, that's my
wearing?
office. That's many years ago, my office on Sample Road. You see, our life was in some way intertwined with the life in Orlando. We still haven't moved to Florida. We're still living in New York. And this life I'm showing you at Disney came later. It didn't come. And this is something that no one's ever seen. I was a member of the Disney Executive Club. Up higher?
No, down.
We're fine?
Good.
And what this was, it gave me the privilege of sending anybody to Disney to meals, recreation, parks, hotels. If I wanted to send someone to Disney, I would write out and they would go. And then Disney would bill me. Now, there were very few people in the world, and there were very few, who belonged to this executive club. First of all, because you can write tickets for $1 million. I mean, you can send 20 people to a hotel for 10 days or 7. There was a limit per room, I think, for 7 or 10 days. But you could take 20 rooms. So you really had to be very careful. By the same token, in the real heyday at Disney, I could go into a restaurant, pick up a napkin, write, Dear Joe, give these people dinner. They can go to a restaurant at Disney and they would get dinner and they would bill me. I didn't even use this on occasion. Or I would call up, whoops, I would call up, I'm dropping something. I would call up and say, Mr. and Mrs. Simmons are coming up, give them dinner or breakfast or lunch, and they would do it. Now, I got 4 minutes left. What would happen, anything that was going on at Disney, I would be advised. This is when they were building downtown Disney. The executive in charge would go around and take pictures with his camera. And literally, I'll
Perfect.
move,
That's fine. No, I can see it.
literally
I zoomed in already.
tell me what it was. Now, maybe I was sick at the time, I couldn't go myself. I guess they're building bongos here, or Wolfgangs. Oh, no, it says 40, and here's a construction picture of downtown Disney. And if they were building a hotel, they would send me the plans. If they were building a restaurant, so I could give my, quote, opinion, I guess, as to, and in most cases, I would go, and this is later on, we'll talk about it, I would go through the plans. So everything that was happening, even if they were building in California or in Hong Kong now, people send me things. And, this is very interesting. This was probably for one of the private events, because I'm wearing a Disney badge around my neck, if you can see that. And I guess this was before the opening. You see, when there was an opening, a private party, people, VIPs and the press and so on, they would have to wait at the front gate. They closed the park down. But I didn't have that. My limousine and my passes allowed me to go backstage. So probably Grandma and I were the only ones in the park. They probably closed down to the public, and we were walking around. Here was a good friend of mine, a guy named Dopey. And it was a strange situation. When we arrived at a hotel, the managers would come out and meet us, and our keys would be waiting at the front door. And in some cases, 6 managers would be waiting. And we would say, stop it. Well, Grandma looked great. And, oh, that's Dopey, I'm sorry. Anyway, and this is Grandpa with his friends. I don't know if you can see it. Then we have, this is interesting, when they opened Epcot, the front page of the story of Epcot, 15 years ago, was David Ross. Ross said Epcot entailed too much walking. It's an adult park made for 12 years. That's the front page of the Epcot, the Orlando Sentinel. Illuminations was something that I wrote and asked Dick Nunes. I said, go to the World's Fair of 1939. They did this thing with lights and water, and Disney, I don't say they did it because of me, but it ended up they did it. I said, look to the World's Fair. I even say it here. But they called it Illuminations. Okay?
Yeah.
All right. Signed off?
You can say goodbye.
Oh, all right. So.